Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's program on burnout and fortitude. My name is Dr. Joy, an expert burnout and fortitude coach. And in this program, we will be looking into how can people recognize the stages or the common signs of their burnout. How can people recognize the signs and symptoms, the early stages of their burnout? Now, we will be teaching on these three different areas. Namely, the first one is the definition of burnout and the different stages of the burnout. And this is to help people to know if they're having burnout, what to expect. Now, the second teaching that we will do after this, uh, today's teaching, will be focused on looking at the common signs and symptoms of burnout. And then the third um, teaching will be what are the factors that contribute to burnout in our workplaces. So let us focus on today's teaching, which will be looking at the definitions and the different stages of burnout. Now, how can we define burnout? So, burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when one feels overwhelmed or anxious all the time or emotionally drained and unable to meet constant demands. Now, as this stress continues, one begins to lose interest and motivation that actually led them to take on that specific job or that specific role. Now, what are the different stages of burnout? I have listed them here. You see, the first stage, it's called the honeymoon phase. There, as the name implies, you have a lot of enthusiasm and optimism when you start, for instance, a new project or a new job. The second stage of the burnout is the onset of stress. There you start feeling a little bit a reduction in productivity. The third stage that we will look into is the chronic stress. Then you start feeling frustration is increasing and there is a neglect in your personal needs. The fourth stage of the burnout is really called burnout. There you start feeling really despair and then also start seeing some physical symptoms of illness. The final stage, that's the fifth stage, is the habitual burnout. There you actually start struggling to do your normal function. Now, let us go through these five stages very briefly, step by step. So, the first stage, as we have already mentioned, is the honeymoon stage. Now, in this honeymoon stage, it is characterized in the beginning with a high job satisfaction. Let's say you get a new job, it's the job of your dream, and you really have a lot of enthusiasm, optimism, and you really have a drive to prove yourself. So you see high job satisfaction, commitment, energy, and creativity. You have very good optimism and you're enthusiastic about this job. Then the potential for stress is still present, but not really impactful. So that is really how you can recognize the honeymoon phase of burnout. Then the second stage of this burnout is the onset of stress. In this onset of stress, you have this awareness of some days being more difficult than others. You also have a kind of reduced optimism and a reduction in job satisfaction. You start feeling symptoms such as fatigue, anxiety, and irritability. These signs begin to show. And then you know that this is the onset of stress burnout. Now, the third stage of the burnout is known as the chronic stress burnout. And in this chronic stress burnout, you have persistent stress that becomes a regular part of your life. Then you have symptoms that intensify and becomes more frequent. You start showing physical symptoms like migraine, headache, stomach issues, and emotional symptoms like anger, depression, or you can even start, eating more than you normally do. These signs become more pronounced. Then you know you are really entering into the chronic stress burnout. Now, the fourth stage is called burnout. And here, the symptoms becomes critical and may include chronic exhaustion, physical illness, and even mental health issues. You start having this feeling of failure, self-doubt, and detachment. You start seeing reduced performance and also reduction in your productivity. Now, the final stage of this burnout is known as that your burnout becomes embedded in your life. And this can lead to severe physical and mental health problems. So what you see here is you have people that are chronically sad, they are depressed, and they are not really knowing why they are depressed. And these are really signs of the habitual burnout. And there you really need to ask for help because you're really struggling to do the normal function that you normally do without any issue at all. So what is very important to note that before you can actually start going for recovery or preventive or any treatment, it's important first to understand the different stages of burnout. Understanding these different stages of burnout is going to help you to know, first of all, do you have burnout? In which stage are you? And then you can then look for the effective solution, effective treatment. So in the next video, we will be discussing about the different signs and symptoms of burnout. But to conclude these stages of burnout, understanding the definition of burnout and the different stages of burnout is very critical for you to recognize and then address the issue effectively.